All right, my name is Andrew Goodliff. I'm the Associate Dean in the Graduate School. On behalf of the Graduate School, I want to welcome you to the 2025 3MT Finals. This competition is really a highlight of our year. It's an amazing event and we get to see the amazing things that our students are doing. So the 3MT is a research and creative activity competition. We challenge the participants to present their thesis or dissertation in 3 minutes in such a way that a non-expert audience can understand the importance of their works.
3MT is a training opportunity disguised as a competition. Students learn to present their research topics to a broad audience in ways that really emphasize the life-changing importance and potential impact of the projects that they're devoting years of their lives to carrying out.
The goal is to train students to be able to distill their complex research down to 3 minutes and down to something that a regular, educated person off the street can understand.
They're given these very strict parameters that they have to follow, and it really forces them to think about their work in a really sort of focused and articulate way.
The reason the 3MT competition focuses on 3 minutes and 1 slide is to help students get directly to the heart of the why. What we train them to do is to grab the audience's attention with this big picture, gauge the interest level of their listener, and then they can go into more detail.
These are students who are doing things that relate to the everyday person on the street, be they anywhere in Alabama. And I want these people to go away with saying, hey, no, I can see the applicability of this. This is good. This is actually furthering technology. This is helping me. Now, our students know this is a very transferable skill. Many of you in the audience know that during our careers, we get to talk to a lot of people who don't necessarily understand what we do. You could be talking to a provost. You could be talking to a state senator, the head of a funding agency, or just a recruiter when you're interviewing for a job, or maybe even just explaining the complex research to the people around the Thanksgiving table. This is a soft skill that we really want our students to excel at. Now, the winners tonight will go home with some significant prizes. The first prize is a $1,500 scholarship and a trip to beautiful Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So that will be for the February 2026 Council of Southern Graduate Schools regional finals. Our winners here have done really well at the regional finals, frequently placing in the top 3 or getting the People's Choice Award. But it gets better. In 2022, Carmen Foster, a doctoral student from social work, won the regional finals and got to compete at the national finals. People know that UA is a force to be reckoned with when it comes to the 3MT competition. Everyone in this studio knows that we have excellent students who can compete at the very highest national level. I should also add that there is an international competition at the University of Queensland in Australia each year as well. Now, you may also see the People's Choice winner on here. So we have some expert judges who will be determining places 1 through 4. But then our other experts in the audience will get a chance to provide their input. So everyone in the audience will get a chance to vote, and you should have a ballot with you that you're handed on the way in. We do want to thank the UA Center for Public Television and About Well Studios for filming tonight's event. Thanks to their help, we're going to be able to show this event on Alabama Public TV at a later date. All right, now our judge panel. So I'm very grateful to our judges for making the time out of their very busy schedules to come here tonight. As I introduce each judge, ordered alphabetically by last name, I want you to just raise your hand just so the audience can acknowledge you. So we have Dr. Brian Budaoris, Vice President for Research and Economic Development at the University of Alabama. Dr. Susan Carvalho, Associate Provost and Dean of the Graduate School, University of Alabama. We have Yasmin Yeager, Chief Human Resources Officer from Mercedes-Benz US International. Dr. Samori Pruitt, Vice President for Community Affairs from the University of Alabama. And Dr. Leslie Reed, Interim Provost, University of Alabama. A note on how these presentations will progress. Each participant will give their presentation of no longer than 3 minutes. This will be followed by approximately a 60-second pause. This is for the judges to tabulate their comments, calculate their scores, and then at that time, the next presenter will come forward. However, you're not here to listen to me. You're here to listen to our finalist presentations. I want to thank all of the presenters. It takes a huge amount of courage to stand up in front of you and give these talks. So it is absolutely amazing that you're doing this. The 15 participants you're seeing here are future UA legends. There's no question about it. Now I'm going to ask the first participant to make their way to the front. So our first participant is Bala Vikesh Ramesh from the Department of Translational Science and Medicine. Title of the talk is Magic Pellets for Encountering Silent Thieves. Thank you.
Imagine your life prone to fractures for a simple fall. Isn't it scary? Yes, it does. Our body is protected by a number of barriers which protects us from several insults. Our body, on one hand, is supplied by the pure blood by the pumping of the heart, which is similar to that of the freshwater pipes in your homes, the red channels. On the other hand, our body has a sewer system, which is similar to that of the sewer system in our homes, the blue channels. The function of the body sewer channel is to produce immunity and to give immunity to the body. Imagine this. What happens if the sewer system gets clogged? In your home, it leads to contamination and overflow. In your body, it leads to autoimmune diseases such as lupus. Lupus, it's a silent, chronic, autoimmune inflammatory disease affecting all the parts of the body. Particularly, women are more prone attacked by this disease. Women with lupus above 50 years of age undergo menopause, meaning their estrogen content in their body decreases significantly. They are pushed into another silent condition called osteoporosis. This condition steals away the calcium from their bones, making them liable to fractures. They won't even know that they are pushed into this condition until they get their first incidence of fractures. So what's happening inside the bone? Competition between two types of cells happen, where one cell says to build more bones and the other cell says to destroy more bones. And this imbalance causes inflammation, and this drives away the disease. Treating this dual thieves, the lupus and osteoporosis, is complex because the medicines, the tablets and capsules which we take in run into the blood vessels and cause severe damage to other body parts. Whenever there is a problem in your home sewer system, you won't disturb your freshwater system because it gets contaminated. Applying the simple concept in my research, we developed magic pellets. These magic pellets can be orally consumed and they are nano-sized. What magic it does, it can take the medicine directly into the sewer pipelines of the body. Thus, the medicine does not go into the blood vessels, and then the toxicity issues can be reduced significantly. Thus, the medicine goes into the sewer pipelines, travel across the sewer channels and reach the target site. Thereby, instead of superficially cutting the symptoms of the disease, we eradicate the problem at its root cause. What we observed at a molecular level was decrease in the levels of the genes which was causing bone damage and inflammation. Thus, in future, directing the medicines towards the body's sewer system could be a savior approach in halting complex diseases. Thank you. Roll Tide.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Augustine Citati. Augustine is from the Department of Biological Sciences. Title of the talk is Tiny But Mighty, the Story of Algae in a Salmon-Bearing River. Thank you.
I want you to try and remember of a time you were at a river. Chances are you encountered algae, those green strands swaying in the water current, or the slippery layers coating the rocks, quietly providing food for the tiny insects that are later eaten by the fish. Algae is the powerhouse of the river. In the Eel River in California, two forms of algae dominate the river. The filamentous algae that looks like long hair carpeting the river, and those that grow on rock surfaces, making them slippery to walk on. However, like any other organism, algae require nutrients to grow. This river has very low nitrogen levels. In theory, algae shouldn't be growing much here. It's like trying to bake bread without yeast. The essential ingredients of growth are missing. Yet, the algae thrives. But how? You see, early in the summer season, the filamentous algae grows, forming bright green mats. As these mats age, just like the traffic light, they shift in color from green to yellow to red. And it is at this red stage that something extraordinary happens. The surface of these filaments and the rocks nearby become covered by epithemia, a unique algal species that has a tiny bacterial partner living inside it that fixes nitrogen, pulling the nitrogen from the atmosphere and transforming it into forms usable by the river. My research builds on this discovery by asking, how much of the river's productivity is supported by epithemia? Well, using a technique known as stable isotopes, a way of tagging the nitrogen and seeing where it goes, I found that river patches dominated by this epithemia was doing nearly all the work, contributing about 98% of the nitrogen used by the algae. And that at a rate of about 2 milligrams of nitrogen per meter squared per hour. This is just not a number. It is a significant amount, and it is among the highest rates recorded for rivers globally. But what does that mean for the insects and the fish in this river? Well, I'm still working on that. My research is important because it gives a voice to this important process and shows that if we don't care for the algae, we will lose the salmon. We all love salmon, don't we? If not for our dinner plates, then for our cultural and economic benefits. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Hayagriva Dinakar Iravinti. Department is Translational Science and Medicine. Title of the talk is Low and Steady, Solves the Cancer Puzzle. Thank you.
Ovarian cancer is one of the deadliest diseases affecting thousands of women around the world. In 2025, nearly 20,000 women in the United States will be diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and 12,000 women will lose lives to it. Despite advances in surgery, radiation and chemotherapy, the battle against ovarian cancer still remains a challenge. Why? Because even after the treatment, a few stubborn cancer cells often survive. They regrow. They learn to resist chemotherapy and spread to different parts of the body. Also, high doses of these chemotherapy drugs severely cause side effects, leaving patients exhausted and hopeless. What if instead of giving large doses of drugs, what if we give them smaller doses more frequently and for longer durations of time? By doing so, we could steadily expose the cancer cells to the medications, stopping them from regrow and reduce the side effects. This approach is called metronomic chemotherapy. It targets crucial processes involved in the cancer progression, also maintains control over the disease. But there is still a challenge. Most of the drugs used in cancer treatment are given by injections. Now, imagine being an elderly patient having to visit hospitals again and again to take those painful shots. It's not only exhausting, but also make long-term treatment almost impossible. What if we take the same powerful drugs and make them as easy as to be taken as a pill? That's where my research comes in. My goal is simple: to manage cancer effectively without causing side effects. To achieve this, I developed tiny nanoparticles which can be taken orally. Yes, swallowed, just like a pill. These nanoparticles travel throughout the body and deliver the drug where it's needed the most, the tumor. This approach significantly improved the quality of life of patients suffering from cancer, also facilitate easier long-term maintenance therapy for patients everywhere. And the best part, our initial findings in the animal models of cancer are very encouraging. At the end of the day, a treatment should cure or at least control the disease. I don't want women to suffer from pain. That's the future I'm working towards. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gustavo Lance. Gustavo is from the Department of Communication Studies. Title of the talk is Bring It In Team, Organizational Rhetoric and Critical Discourses in Adaptive Athletic Programs. Thank you.
With 18 national football championships under its belt and immeasurable success across all sports, the University of Alabama's Department of Intercollegiate Athletic isn't just, as the fight song says, Dixie's pride. It's an envy across the nation. But outside of the world of normative athletics, Bama's home to a dynasty you probably haven't heard of. The 11-time national championship women's wheelchair basketball team of UA Adaptive Athletics. Sports are an arena where your body, identity markers, and talent are constantly observed, discussed, and measured, not just by your coaches, but by teammates, fans, and the university itself. And despite the reputation collegiate sports have of being equalizers, athletes of marginalized identities, especially those who are disabled who partake in adaptive athletics, the very reason that form of athletics exists, face unique forms of silence, pressure, and other things that we can't see because we just haven't studied them. In fact, despite abundant conversation of performance and parity within collegiate athletics as a whole, when it comes to specifically adaptive athletics, there's a massive research gap. Take in point, every major sports communication journal ever has only published a handful of studies concerning adaptive athletics, let alone wheelchair basketball, meaning we know effectively nothing about this form of athletics or how we could take a culture like Alabama's and export it elsewhere. That's precisely where my thesis comes in, using organizational communication, critical discourse analysis, and interviews with members of the university's active roster athletes. Let's understand organizational communication as the process through which we exchange information, ideas, and messages within an organization, and critical discourse analysis as an interdisciplinary approach focused on how language constructs power, identity, and meaning within people and within organizations. By interviewing the athletes on a range of subjects like disability, gender, how they feel about their teammates, or how they respond to coaching, we can understand how these organizations, specifically team structures, are formed, maintained, and managed throughout a competitive season to create successful and competitive dynasties. At the same time, critical discourse analysis will enable us to see how these athletes understand their role as disabled women, first and foremost, before they are athletes for the University of Alabama. Understanding the personal helps us understand how they view themselves, their team, and the entire institution that we represent. Not only will this help expand the entire game of adaptive athletics, it's justice for these ladies who have brought so much to this university and are so often overlooked.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Emma Kate Henry. Emma is from the Department of Economics, Finance, and Legal Studies. Title of the talk is Letting Data Reveal Hidden Relationships. Thank you.
Imagine you're a policymaker who's interested in trying to encourage innovation. You think, if I reduce regulatory restrictions, companies will spend more on research and development. Simple, right? But what if that's wrong? What if large corporations actually need some regulation to innovate, while small startups are crushed by this same burden? What if the relationship isn't a straight line at all? This is the problem I'm tackling. Economists have powerful tools to analyze firm behavior over time, but these tools force messy, complicated relationships into simple mathematical boxes. When we assume the wrong shape about a relationship, we can get predictions that miss the mark by millions of dollars. We accidentally design policy that kills innovation in some industries while being too lenient in others. But here's the challenge. Firms differ in unobservable ways. Things like management quality, company culture, and strategic vision. These invisible factors correlate with R&D spending and innovation decisions. So, even though economists are able to estimate these in linear models, most relationships aren't linear. That's why I developed an econometric method that combines the best of both worlds, estimating specific nonlinear relationships while remaining agnostic about unobservable firm characteristics. I let the data reveal the truth, whatever shape it takes. When I applied this method to R&D spending and regulatory restrictions across 50 industries, I discovered that traditional methods underestimated firm spending in R&D by up to 8%. That's millions of dollars in mispredictions. But why does this matter? Innovation drives economic growth. When governments design innovation subsidies, tax credits, or patent regulations, they're making billion-dollar bets based on economic models. And when these models assume the wrong shape of reality, we're wasting taxpayer money and stifling innovation. My method identifies the truth, seeing relationships as they really are, not as we assume. Better models mean better predictions. Better predictions mean better policy. And better policy means more innovation, more growth, and more prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Hashir Tanvir. Hashir is from the Department of Geography and the Environment. Title of the talk is Mapping Cocaine Trafficking Networks in Costa Rica. Thank you.
What is this plane doing in the middle of nowhere? Why is this boat abandoned on a remote beach? And why on earth did the Spanish police find cocaine in pineapples? These are not random images. These are all part of a hidden cocaine supply chain. Every year, hundreds of tons of cocaine move from South America through Central America, heading to US and Europe. Among other Central American countries, Costa Rica is becoming a hot spot for traffickers because of its international ports that ship huge amount of fresh produce. But how it moves through Costa Rica remains largely invisible. That's the missing link my research tries to uncover. I map how cocaine moves. My research asks 3 questions. Where do these illegal boats land? How do these narco traffickers move in the country? And what happens when law enforcement strikes? So, I identify their landing zones through satellite imagery. I model the most likely route they might take in the country. And then I simulate their behavior. What would happen to their network when law enforcement increased their pressure? This is what I found. Their network is highly adaptive and resilient. If you block one road, they just simply reroute. If you catch them here, they go there. If you catch them here, they go there. It's a cat and mouse game, but this game has devastating impacts. When a narco trafficker moves cocaine from one end of the country to the other, they destroy protected areas, they intensify violence, and they damage local economies. Not to mention, the consumption of this drug kills thousands in US and Europe every year. Therefore, if we can see each stage clearly, we can act smarter, moving from this reactive and targeted reaction towards proactive prevention. That's the goal of my research. Make this invisible cocaine supply chain visible and turn this visible into a better policy and protection for our society and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Caleb Einin. Caleb is from the Department of Economics, Finance, and Legal Studies. The title of the talk is Panicked Investors. Thank you.
The first market run occurred in Holland in 1630. Since then, we've seen many instances of financial panic that has rocked the economy. In the early 1900s, depositors rushed to banks to withdraw funds before everyone else. This led to the Great Depression. In the early 2000s, a crisis in confidence in the housing market led to the financial crisis and the Great Recession. And more recently, the coronavirus caused a drop in stock prices as investors lost confidence in the future. But financial panic is about more than just these few instances. If a collective behavior of a group aligns, they can move asset prices away from their fundamental value. This doesn't just affect Wall Street and the 1%. This affects retirement accounts, small businesses, jobs, and the economy as a whole. This leads to a critical question. Which emotions lead to deviations from financially rational behavior? We can't go back in time to the Great Depression, we could go to the Great Recession, but we can't ask them in that moment, what are their emotions? Why are they selling? That is why we must examine this question in a laboratory setting. My research uses a controlled laboratory experiment that simulates a stock market with a few key characteristics. First, investors are endowed with an asset that has an uncertain fundamental value. Additionally, they receive information about this value periodically so they can update their beliefs. They can make their beliefs whatever they choose. And finally, each investor is grouped with others, so their strategy is interdependent on the behavior of other human beings. From there, I can analyze their emotions in 3 ways. First, their communication. I allow participants to communicate with each other through a virtual chat environment. From there, I use sentiment analysis and machine learning models to put the text and identify specific emotions as it relates to specific selling behavior. Second, I use footage from the experiment. I record each participant as they go through and record their facial expressions and emotional cues to put into a software. This software outputs data that can be then linked from specific emotional facial cues to selling behavior. And finally, I use personality traits. I survey each participant on risk aversion and Big 5 personality traits to connect broader traits to selling behavior in markets. This research will eventually lead to identifying specific emotions that lead to financial panic. Ultimately, we can use this to design better policy that fosters a more stable financial system. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nethra Rajavel. Nethra is from the Department of Physics and Astronomy. The title of the talk is How Do Stars Explode? Solving the Mystery of Type 1a Supernovae by Simulating the D6 Model. Thank you.
Did you know that iron is essential for our survival? Our body contains less than 0.006% of iron, most of which is found in our blood. Every time you breathe, the iron in our blood helps transport oxygen to different cells in our body. Without this, you couldn't be able to move your muscles and your brain wouldn't be able to function properly. This iron is also the same iron that is used in cars, buildings, and even cookware. But have you ever wondered, where does all this iron even come from? It turns out that this iron is produced in the violent death of stars, which causes a high energy explosion called a supernova. But most of the iron is produced in one special type of supernova called a type 1a supernova. But till this date, we don't know exactly how that happens, and that's where my research comes in. I study one possible explanation called the D6 model, which stands for Dynamically Driven Double Degenerate Double Detonation. And I know that sounds super confusing, but here's the idea. Imagine 2 dying stars orbiting each other. One star is heavier than the other, but both stars roughly have the mass of our sun. When these 2 stars are about to collide, the heavier star can end up pulling material from the lighter star just due to gravity. This forms a stream of material that crashes onto the surface of the heavier star and can trigger an explosion on the surface of the star. But it doesn't stop there. That first explosion can send a powerful ripple through the entire star and cause a second explosion deep in the core of the star. That second explosion is powerful enough to blow up the entire star, creating a type 1a supernova. I run 2-dimensional computer simulations to understand if that first explosion can even happen. And what I've seen is that it can. Here are 6 different screenshots from one of my simulations at different points of time, zooming into the moment when the stream crashes onto the surface of the star. My simulations show that the explosion does happen and how the explosion propagates on the surface of the star. In the future, I would like to run 3-dimensional simulations to further confirm that the D6 model is a viable explanation for type 1a supernova and to help us answer the fundamental question of where does iron that keeps us all alive come from? Hopefully, I've convinced you all that the answer to this question lies in the death of a star, reminding us that quite literally, we are all made of stardust. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Obiora Mujama. Obiora is from the Department of Chemical and Biological Engineering. Title of the talk is Strong as Plastic, Kind as Paper. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Have you ever been to Walmart or any of the grocery stores to buy anything? Maybe a snack or a pack of batteries, and you notice what it's wrapped in? Yes, plastics. In fact, about 40% of all the plastics made each year goes into packaging alone. It is so much in abundance that in comparison, when compiled, it is taller than the tallest building in the world, Burj Khalifa. What if we can keep the performance of packaging, but then switch to something renewable and biodegradable like paper? But the problem is, paper is porous, and paper loves water. To compete with plastics, paper needs a water-repellent surface. And that's my research delivers fast and green using a new technology we developed called the supercritical impregnation fluid. Now, think of carbon dioxide, the fizz on your soda, but just taking a little bit above the human body temperature and also a pressure above 73 bar, so that it becomes a super fluid. What does that mean? It means that it can now spread like a gas and dissolve like a liquid, being able to carry food-safe oil into paper, making it as strong as plastic, but at the same time, as kind as paper. Building on this, my current research has been able to develop a material that resists water, even when exposed for a long time, in the order of weeks. And currently, with this current research, we've been able to also establish the fact that even when paper is exposed to a material, it can perform better than most plastics. The result of this current research tells us that just a switch in material can clip away all the 90% of plastics that never get recycled. In all, plastic is everywhere. But with this new emerging technology we developed, a new packaging future can be everywhere too. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ariana Injayan. Ariana is from the Department of Anthropology. Title of the talk is Personhood, Power, and Reproductive Governance in Alabama. Thank you.
Imagine being told your dream of having a child might never come true. For 1 in 6 people of reproductive age globally, this is a reality. Enter in vitro fertilization, or IVF, a grueling odyssey of hormonal injections, invasive procedures, and emotional upheaval. Add to this a price tag of $12,000 to $25,000 per cycle with no guarantees of success, and you begin to understand the mountain many climb in pursuit of parenthood. Now imagine scaling this mountain only to find the ground beneath you suddenly crumble. This nightmare became a reality for countless intended parents in Alabama when a lawsuit over damaged embryos led the state Supreme Court to apply the Wrongful Death of a Minor Act to this case, triggering a statewide shutdown of IVF services. While a quickly passed immunity bill offered temporary relief, reopening fertility clinics, IVF access hangs by a thread as embryo personhood is embedded in the state constitution and reaffirmed by the state Supreme Court. My research, through in-depth interviews, participant observation, and policy analysis, reveals a troubling truth. In the wake of the Dobbs decision, even the ability to create life, not just end a pregnancy, has become politicized and precarious. As one participant told me, everyone should be scared. This is the through line of all the ways that overturning Roe could affect us, and I am sick thinking about how legislators are trying to control what I can do with my bodily property. Another participant told me, infertility doesn't discriminate, but IVF access does. Her clinic, as well as several others, closed its doors at the end of 2024. In a state already grappling with healthcare inequities, the potential loss of in-state IVF access and family planning services is devastating. But this crisis extends far beyond Alabama's borders. It's about who has control over our bodies and our futures. It's about the tug of war between cultural values and market forces that dictates who has autonomy and who doesn't. My work has taken an applied shift as I collaborate with legislators to work on policies to protect reproductive freedoms and enhance accessibility. This research isn't just academic. It's a call to action. When we understand how laws and culture impact access to fertility care, we can better build policies that truly protect reproductive rights. Because today it's IVF in Alabama, tomorrow it could be birth control, and the day after, it could be your most personal health decisions under scrutiny. The future of reproductive freedom hangs in the balance. This work shows why it matters, not just for those trying to build a family, but for anybody who believes in the right to make decisions over their own body. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mina Tran. Mina is from Department of English. Title of the talk is Comparing AI, Native, and Multilingual Voices in Academic Writing. Thank you.
Have you ever read an essay and thought, this sounds good, but there's something off here? That's what I felt the first time I read an essay written by ChatGPT. In recent years, generative AI had exploded in popularity. It's powerful. It can create native-like essays in seconds. But it's also creating a problem. It's now harder than ever to tell if a human really wrote the text or not. And for multilingual writers, this poses a serious risk. Studies show that multilingual writers are now more likely to be accused of plagiarism because their writing suddenly seems too good to be true. Imagine spending years improving your English just for your efforts mistaken for machines. That's what led me to ask a question: what exactly makes writing sound human? To answer this question, I collected nearly 1,000 essays written by native English writers, multilingual writers, and ChatGPT. I then used Encon, a text analysis software, to look for repeated word combinations like I think that, I believe that. These are called lexical bundles, and they are like the DNA of writing. And here's what I found. AI writes with disciplines. It loves structure and formality, but it avoids personal voice. It never says, I think that, or I believe that. It's like an argument without a human behind it. Native writers balance their claim with caution, hedging their claims with it seems that. Multilingual writers are more likely to say, I think that, or I believe that, openly showing their opinions. My findings, therefore, show that AI can mimic accuracy, but not authenticity. It can produce perfect sentences, but not a self. My finding, therefore, can help design tools that prioritize human voices and reduce biases against multilingual writers. And at the end of the day, in a world increasingly flooded with machine-generated text, the most human thing we can do is to insist on our voice, to say, I think that, or I believe that. Because the future of writing isn't about sounding perfect. It's about sounding human. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ifayin Samuel Ibeto. Ifayin is from Department of Chemical and Biological Engineering. Title of the talk is Not All Gases Are Welcome, Designing Smart Plastics That Say No to CO2. Thank you.
Raise your hands if you drove a gas-powered car here today or used electricity this morning. Perfect, that's all of us. And if you didn't raise your hands up, you should probably donate your DNA to research so we can study how you're surviving modern society. Now, each and every one of these activities has a definite cost to pay. And every year, we're generating over 42 billion tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. This is because of our high reliance on fossil fuel that generates the power for our activities. In highly polluted city, high level of CO2 makes the air feel heavy and can worsen conditions for patients with asthma and heart conditions. So most definitely, we have to find a resourceful way to get this CO2 out of the atmosphere before it gets us out of the future. But how do we do this? It starts with a very simple material, something we've probably all felt today, plastics. Now imagine an ultra-thin plastic sheet, thousands of times thinner than the strand of a human hair, and that is the membrane. This membrane has the ability to allow certain gases to pass through and block the rest. But gas separation is non-trivial because most gases have very similar properties and dynamics, making it hard to separate one from the other. Like a professor trying to grade a stack of essay from a group of students that copied the same Wikipedia paragraph, but changed 2 or 3 adjectives. That can be hard, right? Now, my research has to do with designing very intelligent gas separation membranes that can recognize and separate these gases with surgical precision. But I don't just do this with trial and error. I make use of molecular simulation. Now, think of it as a virtual lab where I sit in the comfort of my lab and I zoom into these materials and I observe how they interact, how they get stuck between these plastic chains. And then I take this knowledge and I apply it to my membranes by adding some channels and some sticky spots that make this plastic material very attractive to the gases. In essence, I am teaching plastic materials how to recognize the right gas and bounce off the rest, more like a molecular level bouncer. And no, not all gases are welcome. The impact is enormous. Imagine our gas plant having to separate and collect these gases right at the point source before it ever gets to the atmosphere. Or our industries, our cars, making use of clean fuel that has almost 0 CO2 emission. Now, in the time it is taking me to share this message with you, you've taken about 18 breaths. Now, imagine if every single one of those breaths, mine, yours, our children, and our generations to come, is safe and clean. Now, this is not just science. This is hope. This is the future that I'm designing. And it all begins with one molecule, and each simulation that I run, bringing us a step closer to solving one of humanity's greatest challenges, which is climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Udita Shiramani. Udita is from the Department of Translational Science and Medicine. Title of the talk is Reimagining Nutrition Delivery. Thank you.
Imagine this, your weekend cheat meal turns into a binge. Burgers, fries, and a couple or maybe more drinks. Sounds fun, right? But here's the catch. This combination of alcohol and saturated fats isn't just hard on your liver, but it's just like lighting a match next to a fuel tank. Today, more people are struggling with obesity and heavy drinking than ever before. And together, they form a combination which lays the foundation for heart disease, liver failure, and early death. The early signs of the disease might be reversible to some extent through lifestyle modifications, but once your organs hit the advanced stages of damage, there is no going back. It's just like a Jenga tower, one block over the another, and eventually a crash. At the heart of all this destruction is a villain, inflammation, which no superhero has been able to stop completely. And why is that? Because we lack an effective treatment strategy which could fight against it. But what if I told you this mega health crisis might just have a nano-sized solution? That's where my research comes in. Here, we are using nature's own tools. A flavonoid found abundantly in citrus fruits like oranges, tangerines, and grapefruit, and another one is a metabolite produced by our own gut bacteria when they act upon nuts and berries. Both the compounds have got strong anti-inflammatory activity and are naturally derived. But then what's the problem? The problem is they have trouble in sticking around in your body for a longer period of time. Firstly, they get poorly absorbed, and once absorbed, they get rapidly eliminated. Then what's the fix? So here, we are offering them a ride in custom-designed nanocarriers. These tiny tunable particles ensure that both the compounds are carried to the disease site and actually reach the site of inflammation, and they don't just get passed through, but reduce the disease progression. So in essence, we are reimagining nutrition delivery, something which has been a part of your diet in some form, but giving it a boost through smart delivery strategy, that's where our innovation lies in. From nutrition to nanotech, that's how we are turning the tide on inflammatory diseases. Because the future of medicine might just start on your plate. Thank you. Roll Tide.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Braden Hall. Braden is from the Department of Psychology. Title of the talk is The Price of Your AI Wingman. Thank you.
Dating is hard. People struggle knowing what to say, when to say it, how to say it, what to wear, where to go. And while the rise of online dating has provided us with more potential partners than we could ever dream of having, it hasn't really made dating any easier. People still struggle. And these struggles cause people to seek advice, guidance. And until recently, this guidance has come in the form of a close friend, a wingman to help us pick out pretty profile pictures or write flirty messages. But the dating game is changing. More and more people are ditching their friends for an AI wingman, because the AI wingman isn't limited by the bounds of a single human's experience. No, the AI wingman can reference peer-reviewed research, analyze online dating patterns, and read real success stories posted online by people all before you can even wink at someone. But even still, 25% of people already incorporate AI into their dating lives. And 40% of single US adults say that they want AI to help them create the perfect online dating profile. But in the race to create the best AI dating coach, we failed to ask, is there a price that comes with all of this? Could this seemingly revolutionary technology hurt more than it helps? To answer this question, I conducted an experiment. In it, people pretended to be on a dating app and imagined interacting with one of 3 online dating app users. One of the users created their profile and wrote their messages all on their own. In another condition, the person enlisted the help of a friend to create their profile and write messages. And in another, they used a generative AI tool like ChatGPT to create their profile and write their messages. And what we found is that people who are incorporating AI into their dating lives may pay a significant social price, because participants were least likely to consider going on a date with someone they believed had used an AI wingman, even compared to someone who had used a human being to do practically the exact same thing. And what this suggests is that while apps like Hinge and Tinder are increasing their production of AI-assisted technologies to suggest conversation starters or optimize users' profiles, they may be doing this at a cost, because the 40% of US single adults who think that AI is going to give them the perfect dating app profile, it may actually do the opposite. And this work serves as a cautionary tale to the nearly 365 million people on dating apps worldwide. While we may think that people want perfectly polished profiles or carefully calculated compliments by computers, that's not the case. And we may pay a significant social price when we start to believe that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker tonight is Anelia Anderson. Anelia is from the Department of Physics and Astronomy. Title of the talk is The Circumgalactic Dictionary, a tool to measure gas around distant galaxies. Thank you.
Astronomy is different than most sciences because we can't physically measure anything we study. It's all just too far away. So instead, astronomers have always relied on creative technologies. From ancient astronomical calendars used for religious prophecies, to Galileo's first telescope used to prove that planets orbit the sun, to the massive space telescopes of today pushing boundaries at the edge of the universe, the technologies available to us dictate the types of questions we are able to answer. In 2020, NASA released a list of the most pressing questions for astronomers to focus on based on the tools we currently have. One of those questions is, how did we get here? How did the universe evolve to form galaxies, stars, and planets suitable for life? I researched the galaxy aspect of this question. Galaxies are huge systems of gas and stars bound together by gravity. The gas surrounding stars is essentially recycled through galaxies. So some spirals in and acts as fuel for new stars to form, while the explosions of dying stars push it back out again. This means that measuring the gas is crucial to fully understand how galaxies evolve. But this gas is hard to see because it doesn't emit light. So instead, detectors on the Hubble Space Telescope are used to observe how the gas absorbs light from a bright object behind it. But still, this can't tell us everything we want to know. This is where computers come in, specifically galaxy simulations and machine learning. Simulations are essential because they solve the distance problem. I can zoom into the gas and measure it as if I were there touching it. So I make simulated observations from the simulated galaxies and feed them into a machine learning model called a neural network. Then, just like a brain, the neural network learns, when I see these observations, these are the properties of the gas in the simulation. Once it has learned enough, I can give it real rather than simulated observations, and it will tell me the properties of real gas around galaxies. This neural network, called the Circumgalactic Dictionary, will be publicly released as a tool to make previously impossible measurements of the gas. It will fill holes in our understanding of galaxy evolution and teach us about the future of our galaxy. This tool will be my contribution to the technologies developed throughout history to answer how did we get here and where are we going? Questions humans really have been asking since we first turned our gaze towards the cosmos.
Thank you. All right, while the judges are finishing up, we ask all of these judges, everyone in the audience, to participate. I want you to fill out your People's Choice ballot, and then you're going to pass it on when you stand up to one of the 3MT staff members. Tierney is putting up her hand there. But while you're doing this, the judges are going to adjourn to another room to deliberate. And then once they're finished, we'll come back. In the meantime, we want everyone to exit the room. There's going to be a small reception outside. And then once the judges have deliberated and we've come up with a decision, we'll ask everyone to return to the room and we'll announce the final winners. All right, thank you everyone. Enjoy the short break and we'll be back. Very compelling.
And very clear.
This person is 3 numerically.
The technical ones got my attention.
His was good because it was very cohesive.
Well, it is my honor to announce the top 4 and the People's Choice Awards, but I can hardly do that without first saying how difficult a task this was. I know that's very trite to say but from the judges, but really, you all were incredible. The presentation style, the importance of the work you're doing, the energy that you put into conveying the importance of the work you're doing was amazing, and we're all really jealous of your skills. This bodes extremely well for your careers, and if we have the representative from Mercedes here who actually is hiring, but if the rest of us were hiring, you are who we would want. So thank you and congratulations on the work you did and the results you've achieved. And before I read these, I also want to give a special thanks to the UA Digital Media Center for letting us use this space, even though, as the judges said, adding the lights and the cameras is another level of difficulty, like an order of magnitude of intimidation for you all, but it didn't show. So thank you for that, and thanks to the UA Digital Media Center. And without further ado, I will announce number 4, number 3, number 2, and then the People's Choice winner, and finally the number 1. So, number 4, from Psychology Department, Braden Hall, the price of your AI wingman. And number 3, from English, Mina Tran, comparing AI native and multilingual voices. Number 2, from Anthropology, Ariana Injayan, Personhood, Power, and Reproductive Governance. And thanks to Vamsi Undavali, who is, on behalf of the Graduate Student Association, presenting the prize checks. We're very pleased always to partner with the Graduate Student Association. The People's Choice Award goes to Udita Shiromani from Translational Science and Medicine. Moving us from nutrition to nanotech. And finally, the overall winner from Econ Finance and Legal Studies, Emma Kate Henry, Letting Data Reveal Hidden Relationships. We'll ask all of our participants to please stay for photos. And again, we congratulate every one of you and wish we had 15 first place awards to give out. And thanks to you, the support teams, who I know are not just here for this, but supporting the long road and seeing these students' stars rise. So thanks to all of you, and congratulations again for participating.